In 1737, John Stokes warranted 350 acres in the vicinity of Haycock Mountain. The name given for the warrant was Stokes Meadow. In and around that time, he built a 2-story stone house. On the death of his mother in 1751, he returned to western Jersey. In 1768, the son who was born at Stokes Meadow returned to the farm with his wife Susanna. At this time, we speculate the summer kitchen was added to the house. Currently, the Haycock Historical Society is housed in the Stokes House, a property tucked discreetly behind the village of Appleboxville along Bethlehem Road. It's situated along the northern edge of Bucks County's Telhe Park, overlooking the lake. Good morning. Is it morning?
No.
It's good afternoon. We're at the Stokes House in Haycock Township, Pennsylvania. That's right outside of Quakertown, Pennsylvania. And this is a property owned by the Haycock Historical Society. That I actually lived here for the first 13 years of my life. Didn't even know the true history of this place before I lived here. And then sometime a few years ago, the Haycock Historical Society took over the property and they use it as their offices and hub, but they do have events here. And today there is a homesteading event with some stew that's cooking back there, and some muzzle loaders, axe throwings, things like that. So we're gonna check it out. And I haven't been back here since, I think I've been back a couple times since we moved out, but it was always abandoned. So I haven't been here since the Historical Society took it over and renovated and maintained it. So it's exciting for me to see what's going on with the house since we moved out. And I'll get to check out my old bedroom. You guys have anything to say?
Nope. It's raining.
It's a little overcast and raining. Doesn't affect me, but I guess it affects them.
See ya, bye.
This is my knife that I also made when I was 20. I've used it on about 25 or 30 different deer. Always carried it. It's a Bowie style. It's not too authentic. This is another style of knife called a Skinner. I made this expecting I would be just the most fantastic knife I ever skinned a deer with, and about 4 hours later I gave it up. It just didn't work. I don't know why they call them Skinners, because as far as I'm concerned, you can't do anything with them. This is actually what a typical frontier knife would look like. They weren't ornate or fancy. Like if you see people in the movies and they're using something that looks like this, absolutely not. But a big utilitarian knife like this, you could do anything. You could chop wood, you could defend yourself. It's very hard to eat with, which is a problem. So what you would end up with a lot of times is a double knife. You'd have one big blade. This happens to be a hand-forged blade from the Adirondacks, which may be French and Indian. I'm not sure. There's no way to actually tell. But you can tell it was hand-forged. And then if you wanted to eat, or trim your nails, whittle, then you carried a smaller knife, because it's impossible to do anything delicate with that. I brought this along. I love hand-forged knives and implements, and this is a fantastic example of, you can actually see every hammer stroke that's in here. This is almost a perfectly formed beaver tail hoe. I got this from Virginia. I'm pretty sure it's a peanut hoe. For hoeing peanuts.
So you like rake the earth?
Yeah, and they introduced peanuts very early, and they grew like crazy, and it was a staple. And all through North Carolina, Virginia, and that's besides cotton, that was one of the primary crops that they grew. Okay, is this authentic frontier? No, red foxes are not indigenous. Red foxes, you'll see red foxes all over here, but they came from Europe. The foxes that were indigenous to here are gray foxes, the little gray guys. And so if you're looking at your movies and you see Daniel Boone's out there with a big red fox streak across his back, you know that somebody didn't study their movie making very well. They didn't do it right. And this is a very unusual animal that it consists of only a head and a tail. I don't know why I brought that here. Now, somebody, I believe it's in the paper about something about wooden bows, and I am an enthusiast. I've made this one. This is a longbow style, English longbow style. Bows were used here. I mean, guns were great. You could shoot 20 arrows by the time you loaded a muzzle loader. And arrows were pretty effective at discouraging people from loading muzzle loaders. You didn't want that to happen. So I brought 2 bows and I have some arrows. And if anybody wants to shoot across the lawn with them, I brought, they're called foo-foo arrows. They don't go far and they have points on them that won't hurt anything. But this is another one, interesting bow. This was made out of Osage orange and this one's made out of hickory. I didn't make this when I bought it. I bought it because it's so pulled, because it's crooked. But it still shoots well. So, well, there's some of the material stuff I wanted to talk about. The next stage, I think, is to go over and shoot some guns. Anybody want to help me out?
I'll help you.
Okay. I'm going to do this because it's getting wetter than I thought it was going to get. It has me on there. Want to help me out?
Sure.
You guys might want to pick these guns up. They're pretty heavy and they used to carry them every day, all day. They used to make all their beams. You take a tree, you lay it down like this. An expert will go along, bang, 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 bang. You cut down to a depth and then they turn it on its side. They trim that side off. They put it down. They do, and they would be able to make a beam in about 20 minutes. It's amazing. But that's a. Okay, I'll take this one too.
Is this shootable?
Yeah, you want to grab that one? Sure.
I know.
It's empty. I hope.
Deer horn?
Yep, that's a deer horn, hollowed out deer horn. Okay. Now we're going to take a lubricated patch, which I happen to have. This is called the patch box. You see that there's patches in here. These are pieces of fabric that have been saturated with lubricant. In many cases, what they would do is just take the patch and keep it in their mouth. It's called a spit patch. Because saliva works just as well. There we go.
Good catch.
Good grab. Good grab.
You saved my life.
So, we're going to put the patch over the top of the barrel. Reach into our bullet pouch. Grab a ball. Center the ball over the top of the barrel. Oh, you're going to study this at home, aren't you? Okay. Center this. Okay, see what it looks like? Got it? Now, this is called the short starter, this part. We're going to pop the ball inside with the short starter. This is called the next short starter. Put that down. And this is called the long starter. Some people don't use a long starter, I always like to. What this does is put the ball far enough down the barrel that when you use the ramrod, you don't have to worry about it breaking because it'll be supported.
Is that made out of wood?
Yeah, this is hickory. Hickory soaked in diesel fuel. It keeps it flexible.
That's cool.
All right. Put this back, because other than that, you walk away from your ramrod. Now, the next thing you have to do is prime it. Line my flint here a little bit. That's full cock, so we'll put it on half cock. Flip open the frizzen. That exposes where you put the powder, and that's called the pan. We'll take
A different powder?
very fine powder. And just put a little bit in there. You don't want to put too much.
Or same powder?
No, very fine powder. It's still black powder, but it's ground finer. And then, before it gets too damp, we're going to go over here and shoot it. I'll shoot one, then I'll load it. I'll load some for other people. I'll shoot this left-handed because I just went blind in my right eye, and everybody can see what I'm doing then. I'm going to cock it. It's a full cock now. Hopefully the spark will go off. Are we ready? That's called a flash in the pan.
Anticlimactic.
Which is what usually happens when there's a deer in front of you.
Now he's running away.
They're easy to shoot when they're laughing. Full cock. Huh, it's not going off. I told you that would happen in damp weather. Okay, got a brush and we got a pick. So you brush out your pan and then you pick out the hole. And now the deer's really laughing. He's starting to call his buddies. Hey, you gotta see this guy. He's in a tree. Okay, I put a lot of powder in there, so this is gonna make a big flash and then it'll probably go off. There she goes. Yay! And this gets you 4 shots. You put it over the ramrod and it automatically aligns with the barrel. Saves a lot of time.
Speed loader.
Yeah, I didn't do that because I didn't want to blow the authenticity of loading out a pouch. But you can see why, with the amount of time that this takes, a bow and arrow would be quite appealing. You're now at full cock. Step out. Now, put yourself sideways, put the gun to your shoulder. In order to balance it, you're going to have to have your hand right about there. Can you feel how it gets lighter? Okay? You know the same picture? Right? You're just about level. Pull the back trigger first, and then the front trigger. Oh, that's like the one I did. Good. Just touch it and it's going to go. Ah, shoot. Yeah. I guess it's not going to go.
Now what is that?
Is that like a lawn Jaeger?
What is this, Steve?
What is what?
It's
That's smoked venison.
smoked venison. It really is tasty.
It's yummy.
Venison stew.
It's really good.
It is really good.
It is really good.
Do you like it?
Yeah.
I think it's like probably one of the best foods that I've had. You don't want to taste it?
I thought you liked stew.
I like mac and cheese.
So this was a tree that was hit by lightning. I don't remember it being hit by lightning when I was a kid, but they told me it was hit by lightning at some point. That's why it's split down the side here. But there is another smaller tree growing right up the side there, pushing that old bark off. That is interesting. It's a black walnut. I remember when I had to mow the lawn here and you would hit the black walnuts all over the grass and they'd explode with the lawnmower.
Too far. So, aim for the black.
All right, it's gonna wrap up our visit to the historic Stokes house in Haycock Township. The ladies ran and hid in the car because it started to rain too much. So I finished up some filming myself, and I'm just gonna end the video. But special thank you to Steve Applegate for the homesteading demonstration. It was a little too damp to do the muzzle loading, but had a little flash in the pans for me, but at least he got one round off. His venison stew, seriously, was probably one of the best stews I've ever had. With all the mixture of the vegetables, the venison, seasonings, it was spectacular. And then I tasted the bean and bacon with venison sausage a little bit later, and that was also excellent. I spent my whole childhood up to the age of 13 in and around that property, climbing trees, playing in the woods, making snow forts, so it was especially nostalgic for me getting back there and checking out the inside of the house. I hadn't been inside the house since I moved out. It was kind of weird to see my old bedroom as an office space now, and everything just seems way smaller than I remember because I'm a bigger person. And I've been in bigger homes now. So, you know, as a kid, you're used to that size environment, but then when you go back and check it out, it's like, wow, everything's very, is much smaller than you remember it. Little details of the house. I think I took a picture of it, but like the light fixture that was in my bedroom is still the same light fixture. And I hadn't remembered what that looked like until I went in the room and I was like, oh yeah, that's the same light fixture. So I didn't take any footage of the powder room that was downstairs off of the kitchen, but there's a very tiny bathroom downstairs. And I hadn't remembered this, but once I saw it, it all came back. There was a curved wall behind the toilet, like up halfway up the wall. There was like a curvature in the wall for whatever reason. But when I went in, I was like, oh, there's that curved wall. So it was a nice nostalgic visit for me. If you're in the area, please stop by, make a donation. I'll put links down below. Haycock Historical Society is a nonprofit, and you know, they run that's basically their office. And then they have open houses and things like that. So I'll put all that information down below. On Fridays during most of the year, they have a couple of hours every Friday where they have open houses, or the general public can just come in and check out the property and take a tour of the house. And then over the winter, they kind of close it up. But like I said, I'll put all that information down below. So that's going to wrap it up. Until next time, last tag.